Last summer, my mom reached out to me because she had been watching a YouTuber she liked called Amanda Outside, who announced that she was doing a test knit for her first knitwear pattern. I really liked the pattern and so did my mom. So my mom asked if I'd be willing to test knit a size for her. And I willingly agreed. So I told her that if I applied and got accepted to the test knit, that I would gladly make one for her. Luckily, Amanda was doing the test knit on Yarn Pond and I already had an account. So I took a look. Amanda had plenty of availability for the sizes that my mom would need. So I applied, got accepted, and I then had to figure out what yarn I would use to knit my mom's sweater. I was having a little bit of heartburn over the yarn choice in the pattern. It's Let Lopi, and I know that myself and my mom have a little bit of sensitivity to the scratchiness of some wools. I'm not saying that we have allergies. I'm just saying that we are just sensitive to some of those coarser, more pricklier type wools. Of course, you could always wear something under a sweater to help reduce the prickle factor, but I do note that Let Lopi is just one of those ones that I don't still like around my collar or my sleeves. I also had trouble buying more yarn for this test knit, considering that I had two whole Icelandic fleeces in my stash that I had had for quite a while that just needed to be scoured and otherwise processed. So what better opportunity than to try to mimic the Let Lopi style by hand spinning my own Lopi style yarn, which is something I've never done before. I was also coming on the heels of my very fine lace spin that I did for the county and the state fair last year. So I really felt that I needed something much different to renew my spinning mojo. So I figured, what the heck, I would try it out. So these fleeces were in pretty rough shape. I decided I'd just try one to start with rather than trying both. When I got them, I did get them for free, and the shepherd was very clear that they were old and had some matting. And he wasn't even sure that they would be good for hand spinners. I did take them. I figured if I got anything usable out of it, that it was free and it was local, so it would be a bonus. So I scoured these fleeces and they were very, very dirty and had a lot of lanolin built up. Now, was my first time processing Icelandic fleece and spinning Icelandic fleece, so I didn't have a whole lot of experience with it. I'm really hoping that if anyone watching this can drop in the comments what they think this looked like. But to me, it felt like these fleeces might have missed a shearing or were sheared in between two growing seasons, because there was a very distinct layer in the fleece between the two layers of Toggenthal and another layer of Toggenthal. If you're not familiar with an Icelandic fleece, it is a dual coated fleece. So there is a long staple of a coarser, hairier outer layer, which helps protect the sheep from the elements. There's an inner, shorter, fluffier layer that helps protect the sheep or keep them warm during the winter. So for me, what I noticed was that outer layer was pretty matted or cotted in places. And so even standing on it and pulling it, I wasn't really able to separate it in areas. So I did what I could. I pulled apart what I could, threw out those matted bits, and then processed the rest. So lopi-style yarn is a singles yarn that has a low twist to keep it together, but not so much twist that it compacts the fibers. I believe it's traditionally spun with rollags, where you card the Toggenthal together and then roll it up off your carder and spin from the end of the rollag. So I did try to mimic that. This fleece did have a fair amount of vegetable matter in it and some either lanolin buildup or some scurf. I wasn't ever really sure. I was leaning towards lanolin buildup, but I tried my best to use the carders to comb out that residue so that it didn't end up in my final wool. The carding took an extremely long time, and I tried to do it when my husband and son weren't around because we did notice that the pollen or whatever that was still in the wool did cause my husband to sneeze a lot. It did give me a bit of a runny nose as well. So that probably means that I could have done a better job scouring ultimately. For the actual spinning, after I finished the rollags, I went to my wheel and did quite a few adjustments. I set my whirl to the largest size on my Ashford jumbo bobbin so that I would get the fewest number of twists every time I treadled. And I turned the tension almost to zero. Just laid the brake band right over the end of my bobbin with almost no tension on it. I still really struggled to keep the tension low. So what I found is that if I tensioned it too much, the twist would build up in those sections and it would really compact the yarn. And so I kind of had to pre-draft quite a bit and then just very gently, very slowly let the twist into that yarn so that it wouldn't compact. It was a big learning experience for me, and I'm really glad that I did it. Some of my first yarns did end up quite a bit thinner than they ought to have. So I still have some remaining yarn here, and you can really see how thin it got in some sections, whereas in other sections, you know, it did pretty well. And then like this is some that I actually used in the sweater, and you can see how fluffy and bulky that ended up being. That I didn't have enough of the singles to do all of the sweater, so I ended up using all of the yarn that I had for the main body, and I still bought Let Lopi for the color work in the yoke of the sweater. So I took the singles that I had in their natural color, and I really wanted to dye them with some natural dye. I had heard that red alder would give a very nice russet reddish brown. So we had been working on our property doing a lot of clearing, and so I had a ton of downed red alder. I got a ton of that bark. I boiled it, I soaked it, I processed it, and despite all of that, I still ended up with a very, very weak tea colored yarn. My only guess is that I really should have used just the inner reddish bark and not the outer layer. And so I probably just did not have enough weight of fiber from that inner bark. And it was pretty dry, so I probably could have used a whole lot more by volume as well. So given that that was ultimately a fail, I was on this test knit and had a deadline, I decided to go ahead and get some Dharma dye in the color that I wanted. And that russet brown was what I bought from Dharma. But unfortunately, the red in that dye just struck immediately, and I got a very, very reddish color out of it, which I was really hesitant about. I wanted more of a brownish tone. So I tried to over dye it with some green, but the green just would not strike. The red was just too saturated. The green didn't shift it at all. So I checked with my mom, and she was okay with the color. So I proceeded with going ahead and finishing it up and starting the actual knitting for this project. So I started the test knit, and knitting up the sleeves was so much fun. It went so fast. The color work was really enjoyable. There were some 2-color rows and some 3-color rows. So it was a little bit of practice for me to learn how to manage the 3-color rows, because I haven't had a lot of experience with 3-color color work so far. But it was a lot of fun, and the pattern was going pretty quickly with the weight of yarn that I chose. Unfortunately, after I cast on for the body, I got all the way up to the color work, was starting the color work repeats, and realized that I was more than 20 stitches off on my count. I don't know what had happened. Apparently even engineers can't count when they're knitting, and so I ripped it back. So I still have a little bit of that original body because I didn't end up needing all of the yarn, and it's really hard. It's probably going to be hard for me to show on camera, but you really could tell some of the difference in the grist of the yarn, and I tried not to use the lowest or the smallest weight of yarn that I spun. I was really saving that till the last, make sure that I used the best yarn first, essentially. And ultimately, I ended up with all of this as leftovers from the spin. It is definitely not the most consistent yarn. This was definitely probably one of my first 1 or 2 skeins that I spun. But that's okay. I have this left over now, and I can use it in some other project. So here it is, my finished Elk Ridge sweater designed by Amanda Outside, or Amanda Roche, I believe her last name is. I'm so happy with how it turned out. It's got this beautiful elk color work pattern, beautiful yoke design. It is knit sleeves first and then bottom up, and then joined across the body, across the sleeves to do the color work all the way to the top. So it was a very interesting construction for me to knit. Again, big learning experience, very interesting. And I'm so, so happy with how it turned out. So this is the hand-dyed yarn in the red, and then black and the white is the Let Lopi that I purchased. It is a bit big on me. I did knit this for my mom, so I did make it to fit her, but I'm gonna try to get some reveal shots for you so you guys can check out the sweater. If you are interested in making this particular sweater, I will leave a link down to the pattern below. Definitely go check out Amanda Outside and her channel and her Instagram, and make sure you let her know specifically if you like her pattern. If you enjoyed crafting along with me today, please consider subscribing. This is a new channel for me, so I appreciate any support, likes, comments, subscriptions. Any feedback's really helpful for me to helping know how to grow this channel and provide content that you guys like to watch. So until next time, see ya.